The balance you see in your bank account is a lie. Not metaphorically, not philosophically, mathematically, because if everyone walked into their bank tomorrow morning and demanded their money back, the entire global financial system would collapse before lunchtime, not because bankers are corrupt, not because politicians are stupid, but because the money you think you have literally does not exist. And the craziest part? This system didn't appear overnight. It wasn't designed in one room by one villain twirling his mustache. No, it took 7 centuries of slow, deliberate engineering, built layer by layer by merchants, kings, philosophers, economists, and later, central bankers, all contributing to a world where wealth is nothing more than confidence-wearing numbers. Today I'll show you how the illusion was created, how it survived, and why it will eventually break. Let's begin. The first magic trick, when money became an illusion hundreds of years ago, money meant metal, gold, silver, copper. Nothing digital, nothing virtual, nothing imaginary. Your wealth had weight. You could hear it, feel it. Drop it on a table and it made a sound. But metal has one problem: people steal it. Merchants were tired of being robbed every time they traveled, so they turned to the only people who owned vaults stronger than kings: armorers, goldsmiths, metal workers. These craftsmen accepted gold for safekeeping and issued little paper slips, receipts that said, redeemable for X amount of gold. At first, the receipts were just that, receipts. But humans love convenience. And soon, these slips of paper started circulating as money. People didn't bother collecting the gold anymore. They just traded the receipts. And this is where the world changed forever. Goldsmiths noticed something shocking. Nobody came to redeem all their gold at once. And because of that simple observation, they discovered the greatest financial trick in history. They could print extra receipts for gold they did not have and lend them out for interest. In other words, they created money from nothing. And people loved it because it made trade easier. No regulation, no oversight, no ethics committees. Only one rule: pray that all depositors never show up together asking for their gold. If they did, the system would collapse instantly. Sound familiar? Because it's the same system we live under today, just dressed in better clothes. How kings learned the trick. The birth of national debt by the 1600s. European kingdoms were always broke. Wars were expensive. Empires were expensive. Royal lifestyles were expensive. So kings made an unholy alliance with bankers. The deal was simple and brilliant. Bankers would create new money from promises. Kings would borrow that money to fight wars. Citizens would repay it all through taxes. And just like that, the concept of public debt was born. The Bank of England perfected this model. They lent massive sums to the crown using paper claims far exceeding their gold reserves. In return, the government didn't promise gold. They promised future taxes. Stop for a moment. Think about that. Goldsmiths once printed money on top of gold they didn't have. The Bank of England started printing money on top of taxes they didn't have yet. It was the same trick, just bigger, cleaner, and government approved. Congratulations, you've just discovered the skeleton of modern finance. The modern banking trick: money is born as debt. Fast forward to today. When you deposit $100, what does your bank do? Do they store it in a vault with your name on it? No. They type a number into a database. Then they lend out your money. Plus someone else's money. Plus money that never existed in the first place. Most people still believe banks lend the money we deposit. That hasn't been true for over 100 years. In modern banking, loans create deposits, not the other way around. When you sign a mortgage contract, the bank doesn't pull money from a vault. They simply type it into existence. Those new digits in your account become money because you promise to repay them. Your debt becomes their asset. Their asset becomes your money. Your money becomes someone else's loan. It's an endless loop of numbers, a snake eating its own tail. The entire money supply is just a giant circle of promises. Not cash, not gold, not value, just promises backed by confidence. And confidence is fragile. 3 consequences they can't admit. This system creates 3 permanent side effects. Inflation: your money dies slowly. When banks create money faster than goods are produced, prices rise. It's not greed. It's not politics. It's basic math. Asterisk, asterisk, more money. Same goods, higher prices, asterisk, asterisk. This is why your grandparents bought houses for pennies compared to today. It's not because life was cheaper. It's because your currency has been bleeding to death for decades. Perpetual debt. Escaping is impossible. Every dollar is created as debt. Which means there will always be more loans than cash, more interest than income, more debtors than savers. Someone must lose. Someone must default. Someone must suffer. The system literally requires victims. Centralization of power. If money is created through credit, then those who control credit control the world. Banks decide who gets to grow. Governments decide who gets to fall. Central banks decide whether your life becomes easier or harder. This system doesn't reward labor, it rewards ownership. That's why rich families don't save money. They own land, companies, stocks, resources, intellectual property. Influence. The poor save money. The rich save assets. Every crisis reveals the truth. History repeats itself because the math never changes. 1929. Banks created too much credit, gives panic, gives collapse. 2008. Banks created too much mortgage debt, gives collapse. 2020. 2023. Governments printed trillions, gives inflation explosion. Each crisis exposes the same truth. The money was never there. But instead of fixing the system, central banks simply flood it with more money, hoping people won't panic. It works. Temporarily. But the illusion becomes weaker every time. The global game, different rules, same illusion across the world. The US has zero reserve requirements. Europe uses complex liquidity rules nobody understands. China still forces banks to hold large reserves. India follows a hybrid model, and above them all, the Basel committees, unelected groups that quietly dictate global banking rules. Outside of any democracy, outside of public control. Meanwhile, 95% of all money in existence is digital credit created by banks, backed by nothing but future labor. Money doesn't exist unless someone goes into debt. If borrowing slows down, the economy crashes. So governments do everything, absolutely everything, to make sure debt keeps rising. They need you to take loans. They need companies to borrow. They need nations to drown in debt. Because once the borrowing stops, the illusion breaks. What happens when confidence fails? The entire system survives because we believe the numbers in our bank app are real. But if confidence breaks, banks fail, markets freeze, currencies collapse. It's happened before. Germany, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Argentina, Sri Lanka, Lebanon, Turkey. When trust dies, money dies. The illusion collapses in real time. The real lesson: money isn't wealth, money is a claim. Money is a promise. Money is belief, but wealth is something else. Real wealth is land, skills, productive assets, businesses, knowledge, tools, energy, control over your time, the ability to survive without a bank. Your bank balance is not your wealth. Your skills and assets are. The people who understand this escape the trap. The people who don't stay inside it forever. Final message: learn the system. Don't fear it. The modern financial system is not evil. It's engineered. Engineered to benefit the people who understand it, and quietly extract from the people who don't. Once you understand the trick, you stop playing the game like a victim, and start playing it like an owner, because money is fake but power is not. Assets are not. Skills are not. Ownership is not. History has the answers. And I'll show you where to look next.